welcome to Hope for Your Soul, Health for Your Body, and Healing for Your Mind. That is Triple H TV. Today on Relationship Talks, I am Chinwe Ajebu, and with me is
Obo Davis.
Yeah, and today we're going to be introducing a very sweet, bitter cake, a controversial topic. But basically, the topic is child moral conduct. Last time on Relationship Talks, we talked about sexual immorality and some of the concepts that relate to sexual immorality. And today we're going to be cutting a cake, like I said, that is controversial. But to put icing on the cake, because we are talking about child moral conduct, children, let me ask Mr. Obo Davis, who your favorite superhero is?
I will go with Black Panther.
Ooh, Wakanda forever.
Yes, Wakanda.
You guys,
here... He's one of those black superheroes.
Is that why you're choosing him? Yes. Because he's,
you can say whatever you want to say. It's my choosing.
Anyway, so let's just say here with us is Black Panther and
what of you?
Superwoman, obviously. I mean, if that's even an actual superhero, but maybe I'll just go with Batgirl. Or, I have a lot of favorite superheroes. Black Widow. Black Panther, Black Widow. Get our vibe, right? All right, so, today, Black Widow and Black Panther.
Is that what we call ourselves?
Yeah, it's going to be talking about child moral conduct. Exactly. So let's just dive right into it. Like I said, it's controversial. There's this trending topic that is ongoing right now about child pornography and, the Chrisland high school girl who was allegedly raped. I'm saying allegedly because there has been a lot of versions to what actually happened. People are saying she wasn't raped. People are saying, oh, she was raped. Mother has a story. Family members has their own story. School has their own story. Everybody is just looking for who to blame. And we are not going to be blaming anybody because, we're superheroes. Superheroes don't blame people.
We're trying to find a solution.
Yeah, so... kind of a solution. Are we really trying to find a solution to what?
Maybe just put more, throw more light on advice or something. You obviously learned something.
Anyway, here on Relationship Talk, we really like to relate. So we are going to be talking about child moral conduct and how, it affects or how it is influenced by parental relationship with their children, children's relationship with peers, children's relationship with society, children's relationship with teachers at school as well. Because all these factors, one way or the other, affect the moral conduct of children 100%. Every single day. So I think we should start with the parenting aspect.
The parenting aspect.
So how does parenting, affect a child's moral conduct?
I feel the first thing the child grows into is the home, and that's the parenting and upbringing. So a child you can't compare a child that grew up in the home with a father that does drugs or drinks alcohol, and just that kind of family, and the mother too is not very religious. They don't even go to church. So a child that grew up in that kind of environment would see doing drugs as normal. So I think that's one of the aspects it relates. I don't know if you have another opinion.
Okay, so from what you said, we're talking about dysfunctional families where the parent is not around. Maybe one parent is absent. Dysfunctional families could also be the one you talked about. The father does drugs and the child maybe doesn't really have that support system that comes from parenting. Yeah. Parents that are available are kind of strong support systems for children's moral behavior. Charity begins at home after all, right? So apart from, a family that is dysfunctional or, parents who are not available, what else do you actually think that, I feel like parenting has a lot to do with a child's conduct, not just morally. Yeah. Parents take care of their children physically. Parents also have a responsibility towards the spiritual growth of their children. Yeah. Definitely. Starts from when you start taking them to church and all that. But let's not start making it about theory. Let's make it practical. We still see children today with, misconduct who are, they grew up in a religious home. Parents were pastors. Yet they end up doing drugs. They end up, getting caught in sex scandals. You see children of pastors who They just do things that you wouldn't really expect from a child of a minister. So what would you say would play a role in that?
I think there are two things that might actually play a role in that. First of all, could be the environment, and second of all, the choice. So I think I should even change it up to be choice and then environment, because no matter the environment, there are people that grew up in environment, let's say I call it streets. They experience the street lifestyle. They grew up in a Jegule. They have the different things that are going on, or that kind of environment they're exposed. Maybe somewhere in Lagos or something, and they have that kind of exposure, but they are still very well disciplined. You wonder, how did that person get such discipline from? Like, how did you do it? Sometimes it's a matter of choice, and the other thing can be environment. So if your choice is not strong, or you're not good at making good decisions, I think the environment can influence you. So it's either ways. It's either the choice overrides the environment, or the environment overrides the choice.
Okay, I find it interesting that you're choosing the word choice.
Yeah.
One may say, since it's children we're talking about, do you really think children have choices as to, an adult is expected to make choices? I mean, when adults make choices, we find yes, an adult made this choice, this is right. But when you're talking about a child making a choice, I mean, for a child, most times it's always the parents who make choices for them.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that a child is misconducted, if that's the way to put it, if a child acts, in a way that is not right morally, are you now saying it could be the child's choice, even amidst the presence of a good home training, parents who are available? That's what we are discussing anyway. Parents who are spiritually upright, let's put it that way, pastors. So a child can also choose to go astray, apart from the environment. I'm talking about the choice aspect now.
The child aspect, let's break it down a little bit. Is it the child from what age to what age?
Yeah, you see that now.
So that we can know the stage where the child can be able to make decisions.
Great.
So if it's a child that is obviously of age, kind of, and what is really of age? What is really of age?
That's the interesting question.
If it's obviously a child from 1 to 5, that's somehow that child is not really making decisions on his or her own already. It's still the parents doing all that. So that stage is actually the training stage. Before the child makes choices and all of that, the child should have the conscience. The training should have influenced the way he sees or she sees things that would really influence that conscience while making these choices at the end when they're getting to that good stage of being able to make. I don't know what to think.
I think Mr. Albert is onto something here.
Definitely,
what you are. No, you are. You're onto something. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. But I think last time we talked about how sexual development occurs throughout, a child's growth and all that. And I mentioned that as much as a child grows sexually throughout their development, spiritual development also occurs that way. Moral development also occurs that way. Now, when a child is born, they literally have no idea as to what the world holds for them. So it is the parents' responsibility. So the first place that it begins is usually with the parent, the person who gave birth to that child. So it is the parent's responsibility to drill this child. Don't do that. Don't go there. Don't watch that. Don't play with that. It's not right. Now, the child will ask you, Mommy, why is it not right? Or Daddy, why is it not right? Right? So the parent now has to be the one to spell it out. Okay, this is wrong because this is, or this is right because this is. Now, one thing that influences the response of the parents, because that response is very important. What you tell the child at that age is definitely going to stick, and that will play a role in the child's, future actions. So if the parents in question are not strong Christians, it's possible to still be a pastor and still not really be a good Christian. That is very much possible. So the spiritual foundation of the parents is very important, because your spiritual foundation translates into your child.
And I think that aspect of you saying, when the child comes to you and asks, why shouldn't I do this? The parent explain. There's a problem. Because not all parents tell you why.
That's another angle.
Not all parents tell you why. They tell you not to do it.
Yeah.
Then you ask yourself, why shouldn't I do it? And because of that curiosity at that young age, so you are now trying to figure out why. How many parents told you about sex?
Well,
how many parents will tell you about sex? But
you can use your parents.
To do it.
You can use your parents for an example. Growing up,
they can tell you not to do it, but they would not tell you why not to do it.
Okay.
In fact, if there should be a valid reason why not to do it, a lot of people would have cut off a lot of problems here and there, but they don't tell us why. I think is it a general problem, or it's just an African thing, or it's just a personal thing? I don't know. Your parents, did they tell you about it?
Let me say, I wouldn't really say. Usually, I used to think it was more like an African thing, but in this period of enlightenment, like I would choose to call it, we have parents who actually now answer the why question, because they know better now. But if you talk about the millennials, let me go generation wise now. The millennials grew up in, I don't know, maybe millennial Africans. Let me specify because abroad things may be different. But you find out that among the older generation, that there is this tendency to, not answer that why question. Let's put it this way. If you ever read Things Fall Apart for children, because as a child I read that book, and if you read that book, you will see, let me say, a picture of what an African home could look like. The father in question in that book was those kind of fathers that don't answer the why question. Don't question my judgment. Whatever I say, that's what stands. Now, that kind of parenting style has actually led to this increased curiosity with children because, okay, fine, you're asking me not to do it. Why shouldn't I do it? And you're not telling me. Well, I'll try it and see what it is that, that is wrong about it. But if we now leave that aspect and come to the aspect of people who actually tell them the why, it still doesn't erase the curiosity, I mean, there are people who grew up in liberal homes who still explore misconduct. People, let me put it let me just cite an example here. I don't know, but it's become a very rampant situation, especially in private universities or universities, of people that are affluent, let me put it that way, or people who have the money to attend those kind of universities, where you see students in school who rarely see their parents. They have the whole house to themselves. They are free to do whatever they want. And you find out that when it comes to the issue of drugs, it comes to the issue of sex, addictions, lesbianism, and all those, that the people who practice those things are majorly people whose parents were liberal or not even available, but they allow them do whatever they want to do.
First of all, I think there's a difference between exposing them to it and actually telling them not to do it. So most of the cases, they're exposing them to it. They're exposing them to it, even if they are doing it knowingly or whatsoever, they don't know, but some kind of way they're exposing them to it. It doesn't mean they are being taught not to. So it might just be common exposure, and that exposure cannot still completely raise out curiosity. So I think it's still very different. There are still more things to be done in that aspect.
So we're going to take a short break now.
Okay.
Black Widow and Black Panther is taking a short break. Let's just remind our audience who we are. Anyway, we'll be right back. Thank you.
Are you hungry? Well, I've got some good news for you. Why not come over to the hottest food spot in Edition Town? With a conducive and attractive environment that enables customers to sit comfortably while they are ready to make their order. The food is clearly and conveniently displayed at the corner of the room with attendants readily available at all times. There are individuals that ensure that the environment remains clean at all times. They have a serene environment fully furnished with air conditioning and fans, comfortable seats, tables, and TVs with interesting programs in order to make the client's patronage interesting. They have on their menu swallow rice, spaghetti, meat, pomo, turkey, fish, beans, and much more. Pastries, shawarma, chicken and chips, and barbecue food options are available on request. Indoor and outdoor services available. Home delivery available right at your doorstep. Blessed Naira has quality Nigerian food for an affordable price. To contact them, call 081-685-43377 or message them on Instagram at Blessed Naira. It's located near you, opposite Methodist Church, Main Gate, Elisha Remo, Ogun State. Try it out and thank us later.
Welcome back from that short break. We're talking about child's moral conduct, and here with me is Chinwe. We've been, having a very interesting conversation.
Black Widow here. Thank you.
She will not let us rest.
Yeah, we can't rest.
So we're having a very wonderful conversation. I'm sure you've been enjoying it also. Talking about the child's moral conduct. We've looked a bit on the parental aspect of it, and all the things we have to do about parental. So. She's going to take us from where we stopped. Let me just give it to her. And then let me give her some
power. Anyway, he's just avoiding it. It's fine. So, I think what I'm going to do now is let's just cite examples. We mentioned the Chrisland high school girls case, and you see the world having so many various versions. Some people are blaming the girls, some people are blaming the school, some people are blaming the parents, and from their blames we can tell that each and every one of these mentioned people played one role or the other. But we can also not just blame those three. We're not blaming here, but we very much know that when it comes to moral conduct, society is involved.
Of course.
What people see. Children, the truth is that the generation now, they said the girl was 10. If she is 10, they said the girl is 10 years old. So if she's 10 years old, you see that within this new generation of younger people, they are growing so fast. Very fast. They are introduced into a world that is already sex dominated.
Would you say it's a social media factor?
That's why I'm driving at. When it comes to society, we're going to put social media in there. Okay. We're going to put TV stations in there. We're going to put Netflix. YouTube, all those other things that there are things that children watch, even cartoons these days.
Yeah.
Cartoons are also being sexual, would I say infiltrated?
I think so.
They are. I mean, from abusive language. There's even, if you've noticed, TV movies, before it used to be rated 18. Yeah. There are movies that were rated 18 those days, that nowadays, they are no longer rated 18. They're now rated 16, 12. 13. You notice that even movies that are rated 12 these days are movies that, if it was back then, it would be like an 18 and above kind of movie. So that shows us how, the moral society is already decaying. So if we want to point fingers, we can't point fingers because each and every one of us is involved one way or the other. The neighbors train the child to. If the parents could not say, the neighbors will say. If the parent says, don't do this, and the child gets to school and the teacher says, oh, this is okay for you to do. The children are born into a confusing world. A world that is,
I think children from now, even us, we were born into that time. Yes, confusing world.
The world's already confused. The world is confused. It doesn't mean we are. We are children of God. We are not supposed to be confused. Jesus has made it easy for us in a way, but easy through the way of suffering. You have to detach yourself from the world and all that. So, but children are people who others get to make choices for them. They don't make choices for themselves. And there's always too many restrictions that make them wonder, what is it? What is all this? Beg, let me do this, let me do that. Okay, let me cite an example. This one actually happened for real. It happened right in front of me. Okay. So, I went to buy something one day. I won't disclose the location. I will also not disclose the people involved, but I'll just tell it as I saw it. So I was with my friend, a friend of mine, and we went to buy fruits. Yes, it was fruits. And then we got there, as we were buying those fruits, my friend said she was hearing a sound right beside, the store where we were buying that stuff. And my friend was like, am I not hearing you? And I was like, okay, yes, there was actually a sound. I can't really describe the sound, but it felt, weird and abnormal.
And you feel they were children?
We felt, okay, what happened was, when we looked, we didn't see anybody, but what we saw was,
spying.
no, actually, this thing was happening right beside the store we were in. And the sound was coming from a table that was underturned. Like, a table that was overturned? Upside down. Put it that way.
Yes, that's much better.
All right, the table was upside down, and it's this kind of hollow table that, people could hide under. So, hearing it sound and feeling movement. So we peeped, we didn't see anybody, but the table was shaking a little bit, and the sound was obviously coming from the table. Now, see what happened. My friend was like, I can actually hear this, but can we check it out? And I was like, why? Okay, let's just check it out. That kind of...
That curiosity.
So, curiosity, it has always been the problem. Yeah, curiosity is also what led to, curiosity is even what led people to go watch the sex video that circulated anyway. Everybody wants to know, they say something happened. Let's just go see it. So it's curiosity. So we obeyed curiosity and went to check it out. And what we saw was two boys. I think if I'm to say their age, because I didn't know their age, but if I'm to say their age, they wouldn't be older than 5.
Okay.
They wouldn't be older than 5, the two boys. And my friend was the one who got there before me. So according to what she saw, these two boys were engaged in sexual activity.
What? I was thinking it was a guy, a small boy and a lady.
No.
Now the story just flipped over.
It was two small children. Child. We're talking about child, so two small children. Less than 5. I'm sure they were not more than 5 years old. And the two of them were engaged in sexual activity. Now, when we called them out, and my friend was like, what were you doing under the table? And the child, the obviously meek one, was quiet. Then the other one, that seemed like the older, tougher guy, just looked at us and said nothing. So we were like, what do you mean nothing? I saw you, we saw you doing something. So what were you doing? And the child, the other one just kept quiet because, he was about to pee in his pants or something. Like something happened. Now, what happened was the mother happens to come, the mother of the meek one. It now happens that the other child was not even... Is those kind of liberal children that their parents allowed to roam about and go anywhere they want. But the other one was obviously under strict management from the parents. Because immediately the mom came. Now, what struck me about this story is the mom came, upon hearing what happened, she just started beating the boy in front of us. Like, beating him. I'm like, wait, calm down. That you don't... Yes, you beat him and all, but what you just did could also push him to do it again. With someone else.
Or
you've not gotten to
tighter
the root.
Security. So
you've not gotten to the root. Yes, exactly. You've not gotten to the root of the problem by just beating the boy. I know discipline is important, spare the rod, spoil the child and all, but as much as you beat, I had to ask her that, what will you do next? Now that you've beaten, what's the next step? Because you can't stop at beating. If you stop at beating, you've not done anything. You've not, because obviously this is homosexuality, planting a seed and will gradually grow up one day.
So when would you say he learned such act?
Now, that's another interesting question.
Yes, because I want to know.
Now, you can see that from the picture, the parents were very much available. So who are we going to point to them?
That's very tough because we don't know the full story.
We don't know the full story. We only saw, I came across
to see the act.
The acts, yeah. So that's another, in this case now I'm talking about, we could say the environment played a role. The boy in question is a friend, so peer pressure too, because obviously it seemed like the other boy rather, had pushed him to it. Let's just try this thing. Now, according to the story I had later on, it seems this other boy has seen his parents several times having sex and tried maybe that now suggested that probably he wanted to try it out and see what was going on. So, but that is the level of, I brought the story up to tell us that moral misconduct, immorality has run so deep into the fabric of the society that it doesn't just have to do with a 10-year-old girl, or, it has gone down to infants. It has gone down to infants. You see infants that are being abused, child abuse, older people who think they find sexual pleasure in children. I mean, what? It's absurd, but it's happening. And those children are scarred for life. You see rape, now if we are talking about rape, if you see rape victims, they don't talk. In fact, the law does not even require them to come out and talk about what happened to them. Most times they keep quiet because they are threatened to keep quiet. And most times, even when they do speak out, people don't believe them. The person that is supposed to be, supported will not have a support system. And when you think of it, you're like, why would I even come out and talk about rape? And majorly is usually girls. Men can also be raped. Yeah. Men can also be raped. So these are all issues that is happening in the society.
All right. Regarding that upbringing, that scenario you just gave to us was the child was under the supervision of the mother or the parents. I'm saying.
But when that happened, she wasn't.
She wasn't there.
She wasn't.
Now there are much more examples where the parents are not seeing their children. In fact, is the housemaid that is raising them. That's the kind of relationship they have. They have very much close relationship with the housemaid. Would you advise a mother that's supposed to assist the family? Maybe she's like, now you're a nurse, and now your husband too, is doing something too, and you're both going to work. You have a child, and the child is going to school. You employ a housemaid or someone to just take care of the person, or even if it's an uncle, and then you discover that your work is taking so much of your time. How do you raise a child? Do you say work has to go, child bringing comes first? And then if that has to be the case, how do you fend for the family? Because that's where housewives come in, and it's moral support and trying to make sure the child's conduct is good. So if you are spending not how many hours in a day with a child, it's not really enough to train a child. So what do you think?
Well, I'm not a parent yet. So this question would be best answered by someone who is a parent. Because if you are there, that's when you realize that, for me personally, I think parenting is not an easy job. Honestly, before you decide to have a child, you should be fully prepared, and not just financially, because people just do the financial and sometimes they forget about the moral preparation, spiritual preparation, and all those other things are very important, because you're bringing someone into the world. Someone is going to stress you, someone who is just a visitor, because after they grow up, they're going to leave, and it will just be you and your husband. Someone who is coming to disrupt your peace of mind, one way or the other. Having children running around the house can be annoying. It can be annoying, but they're also a source of joy, definitely. So for me, be prepared as a parent. Be prepared before you choose.
So you're saying that the parents should leave their jobs?
Well, no.
We have to be clear about this. We have to scatter this table now.
Now, if they are saying the parents should leave their job, how will they train the child?
So, and the job is taking all the time. Should they take breaks? Why the child is in school?
Nigerians, we don't like counseling. Counseling is one place where you find solutions to these problems. If you feel you are too busy, and you are feeling overwhelmed because your child is being neglected, because there's child neglect. That's a crime. That's actually a crime. So if your child is being neglected because of what you're doing, get counseling, get help. Let someone help you plan your life. Plan the way that you will be able to balance it, or you can't do it on your own. If you feel you can do it on your own, then sit down and draft out a strategy. The reason I'm saying it this way is because telling them to quit their jobs, are you going to offer them a financial solution? Do you grab? If you're saying stay at home and work, even working from home is a trouble because the children too might not allow you to focus on the work.
So how do they raise their child? How do
Exactly.
they raise
That's
the
why
child?
I'm saying you can't. There is no textbook to how you can raise a child.
That's the problem we're having in this
there's no manual.
relationship issue.
You can't see the problem.
The child goes astray, even
and we
though
start
we're working on our jobs. Oh, let's work. In fact, my father was a very, very good teacher. So people assume that my dad is a further maths teacher. You know, I think he knows further maths up to now. He's a further maths teacher, like very good further maths teacher. They assumed I should know it, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know further maths because he was focused on the people there, and even I was going to school, obviously. So in the evening, I've not even finished my own assignment. I will not be doing further maths. I was still in junior school. So people have that kind of assumption, you know. We keep training other people.
And forget about our own children.
I'm not saying my dad. Sorry, you didn't forget your job, Dad.
Anyway,
you did very well.
Yeah,
but,
he did.
No, I'm just saying an example.
That's an example. Well, in my own instance, my parents are both teachers, and I practically grew up in a school because my parents also own a school. So the one they couldn't teach, school had to teach me. The one school or my parents couldn't teach, church had to teach me. Now, the church played a huge role because my parents, I grew up in a Christian home, so my parents already created that, foundation of who God is and who Christ is. But that isn't really enough, you know. Yeah. So in church, I decided, like you said, choice. I got involved. You know, the Adventist church, for example, I'm saying Adventist church, there are many other churches who have youth forums, youth ministries. The youth ministries of churches are actually very good, interventions to these issues.
I think that's true.
They do, because the way, you go to school, your peers in school are not going to be talking about church-related stuff. But when you go to church, the peers are now in the youth ministry. So that drilling they give you in youth ministry, every church that has their own youth ministry, that prayer band or whatever, they all play a role. Even if the child grows up tomorrow and neglects all that, one way or the other, because there's been an early introduction to who God is and who Christ is, the conscience is already in play. So even if a child is going sexually astray, becoming addicted to sex, or a child is raped, or whatever it is, whatever the issue is, that it's misconduct, whatever. The major thing is that you have done your own part. Prayer is the most important thing to train children. At least that is one thing I have known in my own life. My parents prayed. The one my mom could not handle when she was too busy and she was not at home for any of us. I'm sure she had to commit us to God's hand and be like, God, please just make sure my children are not doing the wrong things. Make sure they are not being introduced to the wrong friends. Just help me, because I can't be there 24/7. So that is the most, and that is why society has gotten to where it is. We've neglected prayer, we've neglected Bible study, and we think that we can jump into marriage or parenting just like that. Nah.
I think when the child drops when the father or the parents drop the child at school, the job of the teacher starts. So the training there will start. A parent can't be with them everywhere. So my opinion is everyone should walk hand in hand to see that the child comes out well. Even the society at large too. We have our roles to play. So thank you so much for bringing me, or me bringing you. We've discussed this and we've trashed it out.
Joining Black Panther and Black Widow. Thank you.
She will talk about this thing
next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.